The pine and fir trees were so thick that they were always dodging in and out of trouble that way. And number 4, there was very little game to shoot on the trail. Now, as a result of these hardships, the men of the expedition became so hungry, they ate their candles. They ate their candles, they were so hungry. They were carrying candles with them to see at night. Didn't have flashlights in those days. They were so hungry, they even ate their candles. I don't know how much nourishment you'd get out of candles. The reason that you'd eat them is because it might make you think you're full, you know what I mean? But they ate them. They ate their candles. Now, during the time they were crossing the Lolo Trail, they stopped near a very small creek to rest, hungry as you could believe. So they stopped by this very small creek to rest as they're crossing the Lolo Trail. And they were so hungry, they actually killed, cooked, and ate one of the horses that they had gotten from the Shoshone Indians. Thus, the name of the creek is Colt Killed Creek, which is on your ID sheet. So these guys became so hungry on that crossing of the Lolo Trail, they actually killed, cooked, and ate one of their horses that they had gotten from the Shoshone at that small stream, which they then named Colt Killed Creek, which tells you the age of the horse was young. Yeah, young. Okay? True story. It took the expedition over 2 weeks to cross the Lolo Trail, and 2 more colts were sacrificed for hunger pains. So they end up eating 3 of the horses along the route. So it took them 2 weeks to cross the Lolo Trail, and 2 more colts were sacrificed. Why did it take them longer to get across the Great Falls, almost twice as long as it took them to get across the Lolo Trail, even though those... What's that? They had horses, and remember those canoes and all that? They didn't carry canoes with them, right? They disbanded those. They're going to need some, though, aren't they, to get on? We'll see what happens there, okay? Well, anyway, they get over the Lolo Trail after 2 weeks, and 3 colts sacrificed for the efforts. Well, once they made it successfully over the Lolo Trail, they made contact with another Indian tribe, the Nez Perce. The Nez Perce, which is on your ID sheet. So, once the men made it successfully over the Lolo Trail, they then made contact with another Indian tribe, the Nez Perce. Luckily for the expedition, they were friendly tribe, the Nez Perce. And they stayed with the Nez Perce for nearly 2 weeks as well. Again, getting a well-deserved rest. So after they crossed the Lolo Trail, which isn't it amazing that none of them died other than Charles Floyd when you think about it? They end up staying with the Nez Perce Indians for nearly 2 weeks. Well, what 3 things are the Nez Perce going to supply the expedition with for their next journey? Close. Keep that one. First of all, they're going to give them, what type of fish would be pretty? Salmon. They gave them dried salmon to take with them. Dried salmon. We're going to get to willows in a minute. They also gave them and taught them which plants were edible. So they gave them plants to eat as well, gave them dried salmon. But as we mentioned, they didn't pack any canoes, did they? So what they did is the Nez Perce allowed them to cut down 5 trees, which they then carved into canoes. And what else did the Nez Perce chief tell them? How to get where? The best water routes to the Columbia River. That's the key. So are they going to walk from the Nez Perce meeting to the Columbia? They're going to try to float most of the way, because what's changed? The route of the rivers because of the Continental Divide. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to float. And the Nez Perce give them directions on the best way to float the waterways to get to the Columbia, because once they get to the Columbia, they're going to have an easy shot to where? The Pacific. Now that reminds me of a story. Did you guys hear about the North Dakotan and the Wyoming guy and the Montana guy that got captured by the hostile Nez Perce Indians. You guys hear that story? Well, anyway, this Montanan, this Wyoming guy, and this guy from North Dakota all got caught. Yes?
Is this a joke?
You decide. All got caught by the hostile Nez Perce Indians. And the Nez Perce were mad because they were tired of the white man infringing upon their lands. So Lewis and Clark were lucky, right? Well, the Nez Perce chief brings up the guy from Montana. And he says, Montana white man, we tired of you trespassing upon our lands. We are going to kill you. How do you wish to die? And the Montanan says, I'll die by the rifle. And all the young Nez Perce braves go, ooh, brave man, brave man. So they shoot and kill this Montanan with this rifle, and then they carve him into a canoe, because they're not wasting anything. They carve his body into a canoe. Okay? So they bring up the guy from Wyoming, say, Wyoming white man, we're tired of you trespassing on Nez Perce land. We are going to kill you. How you wish to die? And he says, I'll die by the pistol. And all the young Nez Perce braves going, ooh, brave man, brave man. So they shoot this guy from Wyoming with this pistol, and then they carve him into a canoe.
How are you supposed to carve guys?
And bear with me. Too much of a thinker over there. Last but not least, the North Dakota. And they bring him in, they say, North Dakota white man, we're tired of you trespassing on Nez Perce lands. We are going to kill you. How do you wish to die? And he goes, I'll die by the knife. All the Nez Perce Indian braves going, ooh, not too bright. He goes, oh yeah? Well, I'll tell you one thing. You're not going to make a canoe out of me. Not that good? I thought it was really, I've been saving that for days. I've been saving that for days. I'm not getting any reaction. Really pitiful. Yes, my dear. Oh, no. That's okay. Moving on. Okay, it wasn't that good. I thought it was great. I told my wife I was going to be telling this today, and she rolled her eyes. Anyway, here we go. The Nez Perce gave Lewis and Clark dried salmon, plants to eat, and let them cut down 5 trees to carve into canoes. Okay? Also, the Nez Perce chief told Lewis and Clark that the rest of the journey to the Pacific would be best traveled by using water routes, and as a result, the expedition left their horses with the Nez Perce and traveled by water the rest of the way to the Pacific. So that was pretty good for the Nez Perce, right? Because they got horses out of you. Well, the Nez Perce chief told him to go down, you should know this, go down the Clearwater River, hook onto the Snake River, and eventually you'll tie into the Columbia River. Okay? So the route given Lewis and Clark from the Nez Perce chief was to take the water routes, take the Clearwater River, where it runs into the Snake River, where the Snake River runs into the Columbia River, and then you'll get eventually to the Pacific Ocean. Yep. He asked him to travel down the Clearwater River to the Snake River, and eventually it would pour into the Columbia River. Yes?
Doesn't the Snake River also become part of Jackson?
It does, yeah. Well, they traveled, and pretty soon after traveling approximately 640 miles by water for almost 2 months. So from the time they left the Nez Perce, they went in the Clearwater, then to the Snake, then to the Columbia, and after traveling almost 2 months and approximately 640 miles, they become closer, not there yet, but they're closer to the Pacific. How do they know they're getting close to the Pacific, Ray? After traveling the Clearwater to the Snake to the Columbia, and all of a sudden they've gone 640 miles, they've been traveling about 2 months, and they know they're getting close to the Pacific. How do they know that? No. The water starts tasting salty, and they know they're close to the Pacific Ocean because they know that the ocean is made of salt water. So after traveling approximately 640 miles by water for almost 2 months, the expedition draws closer to the Pacific Ocean, the river water becomes salty, meaning the Corps of Discovery are getting closer and closer to their destination. Finally, on November 24th of 1805, November 24th of 1805, the Corps of Discovery reaches the shores of the Pacific Ocean. November 24th, 1805, the Corps of Discovery reaches the shores of the Pacific Ocean. November 24th, 1805. They have traveled 22 long months. 22 long months. They have covered 4,162 miles from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific Ocean. 22 long months, 4,162 miles from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific Ocean. And what had they discovered along the way? NW, the Northwest Passage. Yep. So after 22 long months of travel and covering 4,162 miles from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific, the expedition had discovered the Northwest Passage, 4162. What's the next thing they have to decide?
Let me go back.
No, not yet. Before that, where are they on the Pacific coast going to camp for the winter? It's November. They're not going to go back until spring, right? So they have to decide where they're going to camp. And they choose a place called Fort Clatsop. Fort Clatsop. And if you care, that's near present-day Astoria, Oregon. So Lewis and Clark then have to pick a place to stay or camp for the winter. The site they chose, and I'm using as a big term, they chose was Fort Clatsop near present-day Astoria. Who do I mean by they chose? Think about it. Who chose?
All of them.
Everybody. So here's the historic point. They let everybody on the expedition vote on where they wanted to stay. It turned out the vote ended up being Fort Clatsop, which was near present-day Astoria, Oregon. The historic point about this is this vote on the winter camp would be the first time in American history in 1805 that both a black man and a woman would be allowed to vote. York and Sacagawea both had an equal vote among the expedition on where they were going to stay for the winter. So this vote on the part of Lewis and Clark on the winter campsite is going to be the first time in American history that both a black man and a woman would be allowed to vote in this country we know as the United States of America. Now here's a final fact and we're done. The Corps of Discovery stayed at Fort Clatsop during the winter. Of the 4 months they spent there, 4 months, it did not rain 12 days. It rained every single day during that 4-month stretch except for 12 days. What do you know about rain after a while? A little depressing, isn't it? It gets old. It rained every single day. 4 months, 30 days is how many days? 1,200 days, right? Of the 1,200 days that they were at Fort Clatsop, it rained every single day except for 12. Is that right? 4 months, 120. What did I say, 12? Yeah. Sorry.
That's a long
Thank you. Your math's better than
time.
even though of the 120 days that they stayed there, 120 days that they stayed there, 12 days it didn't rain. That'd be like getting out for vacation May 1st. You guys are off May, June, July, and August. You're all geared up for summer vacation. You're all excited. And during those 4 months, it rains every single day except 4. That's what they put up. Now, here's the story. Tomorrow, we're going to have a review for this test. And then Monday, we'll have the test And the test will be open note. Will be open note. So get your stuff together. Get your notes put together. That map that you see will be the exact map you get on the test. All it'll have is numbers on it, and you will have to write in what the numbers are. Yes. Yeah, it won't be, you won't write on the map. It'll be listing 1, 2. Well, I put it wherever you think you need it. Okay? But understand on the test, you're going to have that map with just numbers on it, just like you have. And on the last part of the test, it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you will write in, not on the map, but on the paper, what those 10 things are. Along with how many matching? 25. Okay? We'll go over that on tomorrow. Okay? All right, nice job again today. My math skills. I'm a perfect example, William, how you can be a stunning success in life and have no mathematical skills. Yeah, I had to have it. Yeah.